Oh, hey everyone. I don't know if the signal will hold. I am car outside of Ninja Force, which is a uh, Ninja Warrior gym here in Albuquerque, and if we can turn hotspot, hang on, mobile hotspot. Okay, sorry about this. I'm on the go. It's actually Samuel's last day here in New Mexico for a while because starting tomorrow morning, he and Nathan are flying to Spain to go live, to start the process of our family moving on to a sailboat. I mean, not a sailboat, a motor cat. Sorry, I'm trying to make it so you can't see anyone else behind me because it's, of course, exact time that they're releasing the kids from this ninja class. So I'm going to try to set it up on my own hotspot. So please stand by. In case you're new here, I'm Rosa Linda Román. Today, it's just a little chaotic. Is it going to work? We'll see. Every week, Tuesday at noon on Mountain Time, I read a chapter of my book, Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. I'm usually in a studio or somewhere. I usually go to a co-working space, but it just so happens to be a really important day here for our family, and I wanted Samuel to have maximum time with his friends before we move. So we are going to try this in the very untethered adventurer way of having lousy Wi-Fi and just making the most of what we have with as best I can. So without further ado, this is Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family, Chapter 19, Scary Moments. We have this amazing condo in Puerto Peñasco, Rocky Point, Mexico, on the 10th floor with sweeping views of the Sea of Cortez. It was our family's vacation home before we moved onto the boat, a final gift from Nathan's parents when they passed. The condo's balcony railing is made of glass. With nothing obstructing the view, it is really magnificent and, as a parent, quite terrifying. Still, it was much safer than many other balconies we saw on other condos. When we were condo shopping, Samuel was just a toddler. Several condos were rejected outright because they didn't pass the safety test. The balcony railing either had gaps that were too wide or the low height of the railing made us nervous. There was even one with a sitting area along the balcony railing, which was only waist high. I imagined to a toddler that would look like a perfect step up to climb right over the balcony. Obviously, those condos were a big no-go. When we found our condo, I walked around the balcony and pushed on each glass panel to make sure they were securely in place. Once I confirmed that they were secure, I took Samuel around and tested each gap with his head to make sure that there was no way he could slip through, keenly aware of the scary fact that if a child can fit their head through a gap, they can fit their whole body through. Needless to say, it was safe or we wouldn't have bought it. Now, every time we go there, the glass push panel push, and head gap check is the first thing I do upon arrival. Plus, we created some rules about the balcony to keep the kids safe. Rules like feet always stay on the ground. Over the years, with these safety checks and rules in place, we have been able to share this lovely condo with many other families who now have fond memories there too. None of this would have happened if I had let my worst fears keep us from enjoying this place. I see that the signal is not great, so I'm trying to. Okay, let's see if we can continue. So it is with living on a boat. On the ocean, the danger is real, and it is critical that you take appropriate precautions. I'm sure you know by now that I believe the benefits are worth that extra effort, and 99 times out of 100, that extra effort is sufficient. Unfortunately, just like in our land base, putting all the safety measures and rules in place, accidents or other terrible things can still happen. We must prepare and do everything in our power to minimize the risk, then step out into the world, hoping that will be enough. Let's see if anyone's here. If anyone is seeing this, if it's unintelligible, well, you wouldn't be hearing me, so how will you know? But if you can get a note through in comments, let me know if you're actually able to understand anything I'm saying. And if you're not, then you wouldn't know I just said that, so it's one of those days. The challenge is that what is enough for one kid might not be enough for another. We continually learn this the hard way, thanks to our littlest adventurer, Samuel. When we moved on to Hakuna Matata back in 2009, Ahava and Ziva were 4 and 2 respectively, and Samuel didn't exist. By the time we moved on to the Dawn Treader 6 years later, we had 3 kids, then ages 11, 9, and 5, which sometimes made things a little bit harder. Plus, Samuel moves through the world differently than his sisters. They are all equally adventurous and daring. But when Samuel was little, he didn't seem to have the same sense of self-preservation that they did at that age. He was challenging for his mama in any environment, but could be downright terrifying out on the ocean. Knowing Samuel's penchant for putting curiosity ahead of planning or personal safety, we waited until he was a year and a half older than Ahava had been when we first moved onto a boat. We made sure he was already a confident swimmer before we got him anywhere near the water. Then, once we were on board, we did all the things we could think of to ensure he stayed safe. We established strict rules about where he could go and when, and with what level of supervision. We didn't allow him to roller skate on the docks for fear he would fall in and sink like a rock, even though he asked us to do so 1,000 times. Even roller skating on solid ground required a helmet, elbow pads, knee pads, and wrist guards. In other words, with Samuel on the boat, we always erred on the side of overprotective. And it's so fun to be reading this outside the Ninja Forest place. I wish I could show you him climbing and all the stuff he's doing at this very moment. With this in mind, you can imagine my position on life vests. They are mandatory for all kids who want to go sailing with us and should be used while we are underway, every single time. This wasn't a problem with Ahava and Ziva when they were little and living on Hakuna Matata. We would say to them, never go outside this cabin door without a life vest on. And they would say, okay, mommy and daddy, and then comply every time. And even during those moments when they forgot, they would take 2 steps out the door, remember, run back in, and put the life vest on. Before we moved aboard the Dawn Treader with Samuel, we joked that if we said the same thing to him, never go outside this cabin door without a life vest on, he would probably also say, okay, mommy and daddy, and then see something shiny in the water and be overboard before he even realized he had no life vest on. Well, I'm back on my hotspot. I tried to do it on my phone, which would have been better, but for some reason, StreamYard wouldn't let me in to my account. So on my phone. So we're just going to muscle through this. I'm going to reread that last sentence in case there's a chance I can salvage some of this. Later, when we had one of the scariest moments of our parenting lives, we realized it was no joke. We had been living on the Dawn Treader for a few months and had all been out sailing dozens of times by then. We felt pretty confident that everyone on board rules when it came to using life vests. That day, the seas were a bit choppy, but the wind was perfect, and we were happy to be out on the water, moving at about 7 knots or so. We were all hanging out up on the helm deck where the sea breeze and clear view of the horizon could help keep the queasiness of seasickness at bay. As usual, before we set sail, I made sure the kids had their life vests on, and the grown-ups were wearing theirs too, setting a good example for the kids. I don't remember exactly what I was doing that took my attention away, but at one point I was vaguely aware that Samuel had come up to Nathan and asked him to unfasten the bottom strap of his life vest so that he could go to the bathroom. Neither one of us thought much of it since we had done this many times before. Since that strap was between his legs, it would be in the way for a potty break, and he couldn't undo it on his own. A few minutes later, I was clearing some of the snack dishes from the helm area and headed down to the kitchen, or galley. While I was down there, something told me to check on Samuel. I went down to the port side. I went down to both the port and starboard sides, checking each bathroom or head for my son. He wasn't in any of them. I headed back up to the helm deck, and he wasn't there either. I asked Nathan, "Where's Samuel?" "He went to the bathroom," he said. "I just came from there. He isn't down there," I responded, starting to get that nervous feeling in my chest. "You probably just missed him. He was probably going down the other stairs while you were coming up. I'm telling you, he isn't there." In full panic mode now, I start racing around the boat looking for him, with Nathan quick on my heels. Turns out, unlike so many of my Samuel scary moments, the panic was fully justified this time. He was not in the cabin at all. Not in the bedrooms, not in the bathrooms, not in the salon. Frantically screaming for him, we race outside again, and then we see him, without a life vest on at all, pants down on the bottom step at the back of the boat, peeing into the water. Nathan and I have never been so scared in our lives. Even as I write this, I feel flush and hot all over just thinking about it. Gratefully, we were able to grab him and return him to safety before the Dawn Treader hit a wave that would have launched him out to sea. I think I just held him in a tight bear hug for the next 10 minutes without saying anything at all. What could I say? If we had not seen him there, is a very good chance he could have gone overboard without anyone even knowing. With no life vest on, he could only tread water for so long. Because we were under sail, by the time we realized he was missing, we could have been miles away from where he fell in. With no idea where to even start looking, we all know how incredibly lucky we were that day. When I was a reporter in Phoenix covering the worst of the worst crimes and terrible tragedies that involved kids, I often found myself thinking judgmental thoughts about the parents. How could they let this happen? Why didn't they do more to protect their children? How could they not know about the dangers? Did they not love their kids enough? That day, holding my little boy who had come within inches of certain death, those years of judgment washed away with my tears of joy. I now try to remember that sometimes enough is just not enough. It is a lesson I hope to never forget as I see others also navigating this sometimes scary world, doing the best they can to keep their own kids safe. That is Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. That is a very timely one because some people who are very beloved to us just recently lost their children to just tragic accidents and things that were out of people's control. So I'm actually glad I got to read that book, that chapter, because that is something we all face. And I think if anyone is honest as a parent, we all have those moments where it's too close for comfort. I know this has been a terrible quality episode, but there are more to come. Hopefully I'll have stronger internet once we do move to the boat in the Mediterranean. We will have Starlink aboard, allegedly. We'll see. If you want to keep following that journey as I post, I do so on Substack. That is Rosa Linda Román, my full name, .substack.com. Thank you so much for checking out my live stream. Have a great day. Bye.